Thanks, Tim. Pleasure to be here and love, as always, to share the story with you. I always like to start with a bit of background about where we came from. Being a new company to the boards, I think that helps as we paint the picture for where we're going. We originally came out of medical school, a group of young doctors who'd done MBAs during our medical school studies with the goal of addressing an area that doesn't get an awful lot of attention in the health industry, and that is hearing health. If you wouldn't mind skipping a few slides for me. This is an area that is often at the bottom of the list for a lot of people, and consequently, it goes unseen for far too long. It's deemed an old person problem. And from the time it takes someone being told about their hearing loss to taking any action is usually around 6 years. And what we discovered as we were learning more about this and developing our technology is that hearing loss is not an old person problem. It's affecting 1 in 5 teenagers, 1 in 3 of our baby boomers, and 50% of the population over the age of 75. And we started out as a company that was looking to build a medical device to make it easier for people to get hearing tests. But what we discovered was that what we needed to do was to create some behavioral change and get people to start thinking about their hearing and improve their quality of life earlier so that they can live a longer and fuller life. So we developed technology that allows you to build a hearing profile inside your headphones, put the headphones on, build the profile, we show you the results, and then we use that result to tailor the sound so it's perfect for your individual hearing profile. And in doing so, next slide, please, we get to give people the opportunity to experience parts of their music they've never heard before, connect with loved ones, and really re-engage with the community that they're part of. I'm using the headphones now with built-in wireless microphones. What we've done is taken consumer tech that is incredibly popular and then enhanced it with our personalization technology. Next slide, please. And the people that are utilizing this technology are slightly different from the people buying our technology. Starting first with the people that are using it. The primary person who is getting the biggest benefit from our technology are those people who know they have a hearing loss and want to do something about it. Either they have hearing aids that aren't meeting their needs across a range of areas. Hearing aids are very specific technology, and our headphones allow people with a hearing loss to connect to their video chat, to their phone calls, to be watching TV, or our secondary market, people who understand the importance of their hearing, understand the importance of hearing protection, and are looking to make a healthy choice. And COVID has gone a long way to putting health on the forefront of people's agenda, even when it comes to things like listening to music. When it comes to the people who pay our bills, our customers, the people we are growing with, those are audiology clinics, the places where people go to buy hearing aids to do something about their hearing. But what happens in those clinics is that 6 out of 10 walk out empty-handed, and that's where we come in. The benefit to us from the clinic is that they have access to government funding in Australia, and we've become certified in 3 key government funded areas. That's the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Hearing Services Program, and the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And you access those funding schemes through audiology clinics. So by partnering with the clinic, we get access to the government funds. We're also cutting down our education journey tremendously by putting our product in a place where people are actively seeking a solution. From the clinic point of view, we're cutting down the time it takes for people to make that decision. So that person that's going to wait 6 years or walk out empty-handed is now a revenue generating customer for that clinic that can then come back and buy a hearing aid at a later stage. So the hearing aid companies and the audiology retailers love us for that. We're also increasing that total lifetime value of the customer by making them customers earlier in the piece. Next slide, please. When it comes to those partners, which we've secured in Australia, there are 6 big players that rule the world of audiology. And what they love about Australia is that we have the same Western demographics as their primary markets, being USA and Europe, but it's a smaller market, easier to trial, easier to adapt, with a high healthcare footprint and highly qualified audiologists. And by creating strong relationships with those groups in Australia, we then have the footprint to expand internationally. Now, these big six players represent roughly 90% of the audiology industry. So it's incredibly valuable to us and our company and our growth to have strong relationships with these clinics. Next slide, please. When we look at the Australian market, our home base, where we've captured majority share, being stocked in the vast majority of audiology clinics in the country, the numbers represented here on the screen are those who can get our headphones for free, for zero out of pocket. We're looking at roughly 115,000 DVA Gold Card holders, 20,000 NDIS with hearing specific, and over 400,000 on the NDIS who can access our headphones for free. Next slide, please. And that's led to a tremendous growth in our clinics stocking Audira, especially since we did the IPO. We've been on the ASX 2 full quarters. It was end of May 21 when we joined. So we've had 2 quarters of growth. And what we saw as we started our hearing journey was that we secured the contract with the Department of Health through Hearing Australia, the government provider of audiology services in the country. And from there, with that vote of confidence, we're then able to secure relationships with all of the rest of those big six, which has got us into a dominant position in the Australian market with only optical groups left. Because what we've found is that on the success of the audiological growth in the industry, the optical companies who sell people glasses are looking for a value add and a value generation. So they're incorporating audiology services into their optical centers. So while we've captured the Australian audiology market, we're now able to expand into the optical market within Australia as well. Next slide, please. We use the clinic numbers as our lead indicator of where our growth is coming from, because it takes on average 3 to 4 months to be securing a supply contract, training up the clinics, educating the clinicians, and getting their confidence up to be moving product. And as you can see here with our revenue numbers, by bolting on the additional clinics, we are seeing that revenue growth come through. And we're proud to announce 136% year-on-year quarterly growth, 50% up on the prior quarter, which was a strong representation of the foothold we have in Australia, which has given us the confidence to expand into the US. And I'm talking to you now from upstate New York, having spent the last few weeks here to try and grow our footprint in the US market on the back of our initial sales that we got at the end of the quarter last year. And we're incredibly excited to be exploring these opportunities because of the strong relationships we have with the Australian clinics who give us the warm handshake into the US market, which is on average 10 to 20 times the size. So for each of the players that we're talking to in Australia, their US operation is roughly 10 times the size. And then there's a collection of over 16,000 independent clinics that we have access to through our distributor in Westone. Keep in mind, there's roughly 1,500 clinics in all of Australia. Next slide, please. We were lucky enough, or hardworking enough, I suppose, to secure our first prize in the US market at the end of last year. And on the back of that, we got those warm handshakes with our large clinic partners, got our first sales into our distributor, and had the confidence for me to relocate for 3 months and build the team out here, which we've been doing successfully. And we're really excited to be sharing the news as it becomes publicly available as to the nature of the conversations we've been having here. Next slide, please. We're also proud to announce earlier in the week the release of our 2nd generation product. We transitioned from the AO1 1st generation and BTO1 product line, which we developed a few years ago and launched into the market. And in the background have been undergoing extensive market research to understand what it would take to deliver a product to completely remove our competitors from the space. We were strong enough to be doing that with Amplifon being the only non-hearing aid product held in their clinics. And we want to be doing the same thing across the board. And that involves removing Sennheiser from the competition matrix And that was basically down to the dexterity and connectivity of the product. So we've released our AO2 TV bundle, which uses the same personalization technology, but is specifically designed for the 65 plus community for whom dexterity may start to become an issue. Simplicity of connection is paramount, and releasing that new product, we feel very confident about claiming our place in the audiology market and ensuring that the clinician has no reason to reach for anything but Audira when it comes to an entertainment or communication product for their clients. And that same technology base is being explored through our R&D headphones for musicians, headphones for kids, and headphones for gaming, which we all know are incredibly exciting and large opportunities. But we're focused on audiology because of the access to the market, and having conquered that, we can expand into our further areas. Next slide, please. Cover that one. Next slide, please. Okay. I just wanted to get those ones up, Tim. Over to you. Thanks, mate.
Okay. Thanks, James. I was going to say you don't have to wrap up so quickly, but we've got a few questions here. Can you talk about the pricing model with these clinics? Obviously, you're growing substantially. Is there some sort of reoccurring revenue model in this? How does it work in regards to margin, etc.?
There is. We target a 50% gross margin, and then the clinic targets roughly the same. And in doing so, we ensure that each member of the value chain is adequately compensated. And we see recurring revenue in the form of clinician confidence. So we close the clinic, and once the clinic is confident in the value of the product, they're ordering again and again and again. And what we saw, which was a big vote of confidence for the company, was Amplifon making the decision to go from single item ordering as each customer walks in, we'll order one in and fit that customer, to always having 5 on hand and bulk ordering 5 at a time every time. And that was a large portion of that uptick we saw, similarly in the same fashion as Hearing Australia did. And in building that confidence, each clinic starts to become a recurring revenue generator, because we don't need to close or educate that clinic, and they continue to perform for us.
And is there a direct market here that someone has hearing problems outside of going to a clinic can deal by their doctor? And is there any health fund compensation to help fund the product?
So there isn't a private health fund contribution. Our largest direct to consumer market is predominantly through the NDIS, where there's over 400,000 members of the Australian community that can get the headphones for free. But we do have an e-commerce platform at audira.com where people can buy the headphones. We've focused our energy on this government supported and health focused industry, but we do have historic success in that e-commerce space, but we chose to focus on the audiology clinic and that hearing health space.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly makes sense. Can you talk to this question here in regards to the competitive landscape? Who are your competitors? How competitive is it?
So it's one of the great benefits of being in an audiology clinic. They don't like to think about anything other than hearing aids. So if you can capture their attention, as we saw with Amplifon, they want to make one decision. At the moment, there are Sennheiser TV headphones, which are the biggest competitor in the Australian market, and we've overtaken them in a number of the clinics in which we're stocked, and we're very proud to have done that. There are other areas where someone with a hearing aid could be seeking a solution. So a TV streamer that pairs direct to their hearing aid, their little remote control style devices you can plug headphones into. What we see is, instead of being one headphone against 1,000 in a JB Hi-Fi, Best Buy type scenario, where one headphone against one, if any, in this health space. And we're finding the same thing in the US market as we came across and started to really explore and build out. There is that same dynamic where if you can get in and be what they want to talk about, they're very confident having one item to recommend to their clients rather than having a whole suite or an electronic bay that they can choose from.
And as a company, you've been listed for 6 months or so. You've had a IPO price that's kind of fallen 40%. Against that, you've got revenues around 3 million on a market cap of 12 million. What can you do to kind of close the gap from, you know, where you were listed to where you're trading now? It seems like it's a good story, but kind of lacking in some news.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're looking at transitioning away from me putting my blinkers on and getting on with the job that delivered those quarterlies to getting a bit more public facing with it and making sure that everyone understands the quality of the story. So we've definitely taken the view that it was my job once we floated to, you know, put the head down, build the team and get on with it. And now we've seen that growth come through. We want to start sharing the story because we know that once people hear it, once people see the metrics, that share price will reflect that growth.